Right, welcome everybody to the first ever Off-World Empire Reacts video with me, Sam Paler, and Mark Fox Powell.
Mark Fox Powell, it's me.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
That's the audience clap.
The waves of fans.
Now, I was sat in my office today, Mark.
Yep.
Well, I was sat doing work today, and you came in with a rather excited look on your face.
Yes, so something really cool happened today.
Yeah, I think we're going to get straight to it. I don't think there's any point in doing a preamble.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but let's not bother.
No, that's
so,
not.
Yeah, basically, this news just dropped, like, out of nowhere about the Blue Origin, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos' company, who he set up as a rocket company, space launch company, and they've been trying to do some stuff for a while. It's always been pretty secretive, but then suddenly today, just out of nowhere, they posted this video of the very, what they call the first ever reusable rocket landing. And it is awesome. That video is amazing.
I've literally just watched it, even though you told me about it earlier today.
Yeah, I watched it for the second time.
It's very cool, very much like something landing from kind of, like another world.
Yeah, it does look exactly like that. Like something from like a sci-fi film or something.
So they've tried this before, haven't they? And they failed once, I believe.
Yes.
This is their second attempt.
It's definitely their second attempt. It's definitely the second proper launch of that spacecraft or the launch vehicle.
I thought they'd already tried to vertically land it.
They may well have. Yeah, you might be right there.
Yeah. And had failed to.
Yeah, sure.
Anyway, if not, I'm pretty sure this is like their second attempt at doing a vertical landing.
Yeah.
And they succeeded, which is really, really good.
And they absolutely smashed it. Like they got to basically, I think, 100 point something kilometers, which is it's technically space. Basically, in terms of what's considered space from launch.
It's quite far above what's typically.
What's the name of that line? There's like a line called there's a name for it.
I've forgotten it as well, yeah.
Yeah, there is a name for it, basically. They achieved a certain altitude, which in the space launch business basically means that they achieved space. They didn't achieve orbit, however. That's a totally different sort of ball game. But they did send this thing up to 100 kilometers, which is hugely high.
Yeah.
And then brought it back down and landed it vertically propulsively. So basically this thing lands using its main engine burn to slow itself down from a plummeting fall to Earth.
And you should definitely watch this
if you haven't seen the video. If you haven't seen the video, go watch it because it is insane.
It is crazy. Propulsive landings are just so much cooler than parachute landings. Yeah. Although, having said that,
kind of landing.
The propulsive landing is only the first stage, right?
Yeah.
So the first stage, the actual capsule in which is the thing that would carry the people, is actually landing with a standard parachute setup. Yeah. And a small kind of booster thing like they have on the Soyuz. Yeah. Which I imagine is pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, the Soyuz astronauts say it's like being in a car crash. so I think that's probably pretty bad. But yeah, I think the whole point of this is eventually to send tourists.
Yeah, it's a tourist project
into space.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
Unlike the SpaceX one, which is basically a commercial spaceflight project. We can talk about that more in a second.
Sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely a space tourism thing.
Yeah.
And I think that it's basically you more or less take off and land in the same place. Well, very similar.
Yeah, it seemed they basically landed
back
on the pad.
I don't know if it's identical.
Not on the launch pad, no, sorry.
But it's very, very close by.
In the same site.
You don't end up miles away, basically.
Yeah.
So it's not a transport mechanism.
No.
Not yet, anyway.
No.
Not that design.
Not at all. It's like a sounding rocket, kind of. It just goes sort of straight up.
Yeah, it is basically like strapping a load of people to a sounding rocket.
Yeah. Like a really fat, chunky sounding rocket.
The showedest, fattest, dildoest rocket I've ever seen.
Which is hilarious when it launches, but all of that stops being hilarious when it lands because it is fucking badass.
Yes. When those legs fold out.
Yeah.
And it when it's
and you get it from multiple views in slow motion, multiple camera angles.
They did a really good job with the filming.
Yeah. They obviously know what they're doing.
It's going to raise the game, I reckon, for in-flight filming for space launches because that sounds like a weird thing to raise the game for and a very specific niche thing. But if you look at old NASA stuff, I mean NASA's pretty good at it. ESA have been rubbish over the years.
Yeah, of course.
NASA's got better at it, but then SpaceX has done kind of a cooler, their countdown launches, which we will be doing reactions to and live streams of.
Definitely.
They really give you a lot of information as it's happening and stuff. And when it goes off, you know exactly what's happening. Some of the NASA ones, you just kind of have the comms chatter. Yeah. You don't know what any of the commands mean, any of the codes. You're
and then it's interspersed.
Really understand what's going on. Yeah. And then it just launches when the countdown gets you basically only know what's going on because of the countdown. It's it's going to be 10 seconds because they're going 10, 9, 8. Yeah.
And then sometimes you get those little bits where there's there's a few seconds to wait here, so we'll just have an aside and someone will tell you about some previous mission. Yeah. And it's wait, I want to watch the stuff happening. But anyway, so yes, as you said, SpaceX obviously do it really well. They know how to how to like hype people up for a launch, and how to give you the information during the launch videos and stuff.
Yeah.
But these guys obviously know what they're doing as well. So yeah, you might see this kind of.
I think it's a little bit better than what SpaceX has produced.
I think certainly, and more and more people anyway, like just general people like us or whatever, are just interested in watching space launch videos.
Yeah.
So yeah, like that's going to be a thing that you see probably more and more. Is
so we've seen a lot in the news then. It's been all over the news, this thing.
Just all kicked off suddenly.
What is the difference between this then and the SpaceX one? So people are saying that basically Blue Origin have beaten SpaceX, okay, as if they've won some sort of race that they were both, knowingly taking part in. Is that the case? If there's a race to land a rocket, a rocket has gone into space, a stage of it, and land it vertically, if that race exists, which it sort of does because it's going to make it cheaper. It's a commercial, a good business prospect to want to do that. Have they beaten SpaceX to it? Have they beaten SpaceX to the punch? This is a thing that SpaceX has been sort of hyping and talking about for a long time.
It's been one of their big selling points.
To be honest,
basically.
the coolest thing that's happening at the moment
it's awesome. It's so cool.
In standard just to orbital or suborbital heights.
Yeah, because you can basically if you can reuse a rocket, it turns space access to space into essentially like air travel, aircraft that can be refueled and reserviced and just continually sending payloads up.
Yeah, it's so expensive to rebuild rockets, but not actually that expensive to refuel.
Yeah, exactly. So it is a big deal. So the question of have they beaten SpaceX to the punch, and that's sort of the headlines that quite a few media people came in with straight away. It was like, oh, Blue Origin beat SpaceX to the punch with landing a rocket. And if the criteria is putting a rocket up high altitude into space, and then bringing it back down and landing it to the point where you could reuse it, and presumably they will reuse this. I would be surprised if they didn't. I mean, that's probably what they're going to do.
I mean, they're just going to do a load of tests.
Shitload of tests, and then at some point they're going to launch it again, which is cool. That's going to be awesome. So we now basically live in a world where you can recover a launch vehicle, the first stage of a launch vehicle, that gives you access to space.
Well, they've recovered the whole vehicle.
Yeah, they have recovered the whole vehicle. Yeah,
which is the first time ever.
Yeah, for the first time ever. So that's
a massive deal. It's a big deal. But is it quite the same as what SpaceX are attempting? I don't. So I did read someone say that actually both the stages that SpaceX want to recover and that Blue Origin have just recovered, that both of them are suborbital. The stage that the Falcon 9 doesn't actually reach space. I'm not sure the first stage doesn't reach space with the Falcon 9. I'm not actually sure exactly what height it sort of.
Yeah. So it massively depends on the payload.
It certainly doesn't go suborbital. Sorry, it certainly doesn't go orbital.
No. So I did a little bit of reading around that.
Sure.
It massively depends on the payload, for example, how heavy the payload is.
And the height of the orbit, right? And
the height of the orbit required. Yeah. So apparently Elon Musk's come out today and said that the first stage, Falcon 9 first stage, without a second stage on it, and with a light satellite, a light payload, could put something could actually access low Earth orbit on its own. So it is potentially an orbital transfer vehicle, that first stage on its own.
Which is probably, okay.
But I don't know if they'll ever really use it like that. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, so basically what will happen now with the SpaceX launches is that as they're trying to achieve orbit, the first stage separates at something like 60 or 70 kilometers altitude.
With the Falcon.
With the Falcon 9. Yeah. And then, but because it's traveling at something like 10 times the speed of this Blue Origin rocket at that point, it then continues to go up and reaches an apogee, so a highest point far higher than the Blue Origin rocket. So it's traveling both faster, a lot, for 10 times the speed.
Way faster.
And reaches an altitude, I think, of about 100 miles, which is a good 30-40 miles higher. Yeah. So it's a whole different ball game, like what SpaceX are trying to do. So they've basically taken a big leap into trying to land an orbital vehicle, whereas Blue Origin have sort of taken the first smaller step, which is to land something just that goes straight up and down, basically.
And so the Blue Origin thing, I think, is significant.
Yeah, it definitely is.
It doesn't. It only really has maybe some limited commercial applications and mission applications, but I mean, let's be honest. The SpaceX one is the one, as in landing from a vehicle that puts stuff into orbit, is just so many orders of magnitude more important.
And more important, more commercially
viable,
useful, and just generally forwarding human exploration of space.
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
But having said that, like the prospect of going into space now for a not totally unaffordable amount of money kind of seems a bit nearer suddenly to me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, that thing's kind of like just like a glorified sort of elevator. It just sort of pops up out the atmosphere and then drops back down.
And you get, so again, like, guys, watch that video.
And
so you will get 4 minutes of weightlessness at the top.
Yeah.
And they were saying on that video, I mean, it's all in CGI that little bit, so it's hard to really tell like what would happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the 4 minutes of weightlessness, and you can like look out of what they say are going to be the world's biggest windows in space.
Yeah.
So like huge windows that you can look out. It's not those tiny little things you have on the ISS and stuff.
So we're going to be doing a video at some point about the parabolic flight we went on. How many? But just quickly, and we're not going to talk about that much now. How many minutes of weightlessness do we have in that?
Total?
Yeah, was it about 11 minutes or something like that?
Possibly.
I vaguely remember that number.
31 parabola. Each one was 25 seconds. Right. Well, like a bit less than that. What is that?
Around that.
Yeah.
Around 11 minutes.
Yeah. Around 11 minutes. Yeah. But broken up into small.
Yeah,
chunks.
And it wasn't the same.
I think that's going to make a big difference.
Also, the zero-G in a parabolic flight's kind of a bit dodge.
Yeah, it's not high quality zero-G.
It's not. The plane's moving about all over the place as
you
it's
go up and you go down and
as it's dropping
and hit the ceiling sometimes and stuff. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a full video at some point.
We certainly will,
because that's definitely worth some time.
It is.
So yeah,
go on.
I would pay good money to go up in that thing.
So I mean, okay, it's difficult to know how much I'd pay. Partly because when I make that decision, hopefully I'll be in whatever happens, I'll probably be in a slightly different financial situation.
Yeah.
Possibly better, probably worse. But I mean, I would pay a quite a lot of like. So okay, So forget like our actual incomes now.
Yeah.
But in terms of your monthly, would you pay a month's salary? Would you pay 6 months' salary based on how much you earn now? Okay, and how much that money like matters?
Yeah.
So how much do you reckon? Would you? I don't even know.
I reckon more than a month.
Yeah.
I reckon more than a month. Yeah. 6 months.
But the problem is,
it very much depends on like how much money I have, like like my assets and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
Basically, I'd really want to do it. So. A lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I would put like it's something I would potentially save a long time for.
Yeah,
like
years.
Even more than a year's like worth of salary that I've saved over like 10 years to do.
Yeah,
to go into space. Is what you're doing. You're going into space. So yeah,
especially if it's looking likely that, I mean, it's really hard to judge these things, but if it's looking likely that is going to be your best shot of going into space, and it's not going to be like 10 years in the future, there's just going to be fucking everyone's going into space all the time.
That's true. I mean, if there's a cheaper option.
Yeah.
And and like you say, I mean, if there's something else on the horizon that is cheaper, I mean, I'm not going to be spending like, millions of pounds, because one, I won't have it, and two, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Although, having said that, if you were a billionaire, would you if you were like a super rich person, would you blow the money out and go on a Soyuz up to the ISS?
That's yes. I think so.
I think so.
I think it would be terrifying.
I agree.
But I think it would be.
I sort of
really
think it's
awesome.
one of those things. I'm like, yeah, I'll definitely do that. And then when it came to it, I'd be like, hold on a minute.
There's something about those Soyuz like launch vehicles. They are scary things.
They are. Well, they're scared. They look scary.
They're just old. Like
they're
obviously
old
each vehicle is a new vehicle. Well, no, not the actual Soyuz spacecraft.
The design. It's just the design. Well,
sure.
Parts of them are old. I mean, the actual rocket itself isn't old.
The way they look is like it just looks like it's gonna fall apart.
Yeah, exactly.
It just looks like you're strapped into kind of like.
It's got that horrible like sort of like green Russian paint.
Yeah, it looks. Tell you what, it looks like you're inside like a Soviet era like submarine.
Nuclear sub. Yeah, exactly.
That's like you're really packed into like the
torpedo
room or something, just like, and then they're gonna launch you into space.
Yeah, it's being launched.
Which is mental. No one's. No. Obviously, no one's ever died like accessing the ISS. But I don't know what the sort of failure rate record.
Well, the Soyuz is.
It's pretty reliable.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's like you said, it looks scary, and it definitely does.
But it's actually the stats are on its side.
Yeah, exactly.
Like they know what they're doing.
It's going to be safer than these newfangled launch mechanisms that are going to be on the horizon, probably to start with. I imagine not eventually, but some of those early Blue Origin ones and stuff. I mean, they'll probably be okay, but you imagine there will be some accidents, some sketchy stuff, like we saw with Virgin Galactic.
Yeah.
But then again, there was that Soyuz not that long ago that didn't just totally span out of control.
Yeah, and
like, can you imagine that? Can you imagine being
that's the same spacecraft they launched people in.
Yeah.
It was just happened to be packed with cargo, not people.
Yeah.
And there's literally nothing they could do. They just had to watch it spiral it back into the atmosphere over a period of about 4 days or something.
And you can't do anything about that in terms of you know, because most of the launch ejection happens much further down.
Yeah.
And if it can happen further up, once you're in space and you start spinning, you can't do anything about that.
It was something
unless there's some correctional things that it would have on a.
Was it something to do with the second stage burn that caused that?
Yeah,
I can't
it was something
remember.
like
There
that.
was something like didn't quite. I don't know. It didn't fire right, or like it hit something. I can't remember.
Yeah, it didn't work.
Yeah, basically didn't.
That's
it
for
failed.
sure.
It failed. Yeah.
Which is it. Yeah, so if that oh god, I can't imagine how scary that would be, just spinning out of control. Whereas you feel like that sort of thing's probably less likely to happen, or at least you wouldn't have to endure it so long in
the Blue Origin.
Yeah, and just a little
Shepherd.
pop up, pop down one.
Yeah, because with that you're basically just like.
There's not much I suppose it could like spin out of control and stuff and still spin, but it doesn't it doesn't re-enter the atmosphere at that higher speed.
Presumably not. No.
And so therefore it won't go through like a really intense burn and stuff, and consequently might be easier to.
I don't think it's got like a massive heat shield or anything like that. I wouldn't have. No, because I mean the heat shields are used when you're at orbital speeds.
Yeah, which is like 30 times faster.
Yeah,
or
which is
whatever,
mental
than the
fast.
fastest speed that Blue Origin thing goes.
Yeah.
I think it was like they went to like Mach 6 or something, and I think they go to like Mach 30, the Falcon 9s. Or
That sounds
like that.
about right. Yeah.
I think Elon Musk might have put that
like
on
one of Elon's tweets. Yeah.
Yeah.
So So bringing it back to talking about what that means for like SpaceX and for the future of space exploration. So like, does this signal like sort of the beginning of something new? Is this like a new era starting from today? Is it that significant?
I don't know. I reckon if you look back, I'm not quite sure. I feel like it's part of that new dawn, if you like, because when we look back, the first recovery of a stage is going to be a big deal, and it's going to be one of those things that's kind of like, who invented the World Wide Web? Was it like the American government, or was it Tim Berners-Lee who actually invented the World Wide Web, like the actual thing we use now? But an internet of sorts was already, and there's kind of been an argument as to which one was more significant, etc., etc. So maybe there will be that argument in the future with SpaceX and with Blue Origin about that VTOL thing, but it's certainly a massive deal, and it kind of does herald a new start of space exploration, I think, partly because it makes space tourism, it might be the thing that takes people, the first space tourists, the first large-scale space tourism, not like, proper government-run astronaut programs that have just been bought into by very rich people.
Yeah. Like proper programs,
like
a tourism program where anyone could just go pay.
Yeah, go down
like reasonably. I'm not going to say cheap, it won't be cheap, but like reasonably affordable for a lot of people.
You just pop down the local travel agent, they've got a book, and they're like, where do you want to go into space? Do you want to go with Blue Origin? Do you want to go with Virgin Galactic? The Russians?
Can you imagine like
they set up something?
You could choose like what part of the Earth you were over as well, like near the Himalayas or something to see those mountains, or like near a huge desert to see the desert. And I don't know. You know what I mean? Like they could have like launch sites around the world, so you could like choose which one you hit up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So is it the dawn of a new era? I kind of think it might be, but
I think part of the significance
it's overselling. It's partly overselling it because it's so much easy. It's not easy to do that. I don't want to undersell it as well.
Yeah.
It's super hard to do, but it's not the same as coming back from orbit.
Yeah. I mean, you see that thing coming down in the video, and it's like wobbling all over the place. And you imagine trying to like land something that's like, I don't know what speed it's going at when it plummets, but it's probably, hundreds of miles an hour, whatever.
Yeah.
Really, really
I
fast.
don't know what.
And they got to slow it down with like a single point like jet coming out the bottom. Rocket engine.
I couldn't work out from the video.
It's difficult.
Whether it had, because you can from the SpaceX videos, whether it had done a burn much higher up, because the Falcon 9 doesn't it burn for a while to slow it? Well, it flips round, starts going back down, burns, flips back round again, and then does some burns to slow it down, like multiple stage burns until it gets towards the ground, does another burn and lands.
Yeah, it does like deceleration burns.
Exactly, yeah. Where I don't know if that goes through the same, or it certainly won't go through the same number of deceleration burns, but whether it goes through any deceleration burns or just like a few, like one big one at the end. We didn't see that from the video.
No indication of that from the video, and actually like the information, the way that this company operates is very secretive. Like this has just come out of the blue today. Like absolutely no rumblings about it before.
No.
And they just dropped this video. So
I kind of like that.
I like it as well. I like it a lot.
Although I do like the build up of the SpaceX ones, because every time there's a launch, every time there's a SpaceX launch, I'm like, are they gonna try and land it? Are they gonna try and land it?
Oh man.
And
the next SpaceX launch, which does not have a date yet, but we will get one soon. In fact, they might announce one real soon now.
It might be like
they might even announce it by now.
Yeah, possibly.
Well, I'll check that after this.
Yep.
Yeah, so I was just saying that when SpaceX announced the date for their next launch, which hopefully will be pretty soon, I'm gonna be like even if possible even more excited than I was before. But yeah, what
happened last time though?
I know, especially considering the failure of like the Falcon 9 failure back in June or whatever it was.
Yeah, where that strut broke and then it fell apart. I mean, we were convinced at that point it was going to land vertically. Yeah. We were absolutely nailed down convinced. Like, I was just going to get into orbit.
Like, almost during the launch.
Like, we were just like, it's just going to go into, it's the launch bit, like, get on with it, get into orbit, send all that package off, and then do the landing.
Do the bit that we're interested in.
Blew up. We're like, what?
Just like, no.
I could not believe that.
Like I could
not believe that.
That's like a phrase people say. I couldn't believe that, but I literally couldn't believe it. I was looking at it going,
no. I just thought something. I was like, I kept coming up with the idea, like, so it, like, was supposed to do that? Is it like trying to look for like bits of the spacecraft that had separated off?
Yeah.
It's like it's just in pieces, like bits of it rocketing away.
So yeah, considering that and considering what happened today with Blue Origin, I think that there's even more pressure, like self-imposed pressure, on SpaceX.
I think
to
external
pull it
now
off.
as well.
Probably,
I mean, but it's sort of self-imposed external pressure in that they've built it up.
They've sort of sold themselves as like pioneers, which they are, absolutely,
definitely are,
and like the most advanced rocket company in the world, which they almost certainly are. I mean, Blue Origin, straight up and down, these guys are trying to put.
Yeah, Blue Origin does design engines for other things, doesn't it? They're doing like an engine for No, it's not. It's for the Boeing thing, the thing that they catch with helicopters.
The Vulcan.
The Vulcan, that's it. That's got a Blue Origin like methane burning engine that's like super slow burning. Yeah. And it has like really long.
The BE4 or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So it's arguably more pressure on SpaceX from all these events. Certainly what's interesting about this whole thing, like even if you don't think that what Blue Origin have done today is like massively significant, considering how it's not quite as maybe not quite as difficult or quite as challenging as the SpaceX ones, even if you don't consider
and maybe not as useful.
What is really, really significant about it is the fact that it's making even more public this kind of new commercial space race.
Yeah, this is absolutely the
people
next
are just getting on board with it. I mean, it's been going on for a while now. These different companies.
It has and it hasn't.
But I think this is a game changer.
Yeah.
In terms of like public profile of this, people are really switching on to like, oh shit, there's a massive race going on.
I've got to be honest. I don't think that many people knew who Blue Origin were outside like space nerds like us before this landing. I think it's going to raise their profile hugely.
Yeah.
And SpaceX, like you say, are no longer going to be the only new kid on the block, if you like.
They've got competitors.
They've got even though they're not really competing for them for the orbital market in that way. This is a public perception thing is huge, and yeah, I mean it's just the start of a like got to be the most exciting time in space since the Apollo, since
absolutely
since the good old space race.
And the good thing about this is that because they're private companies, that we're not they're not subject to government cuts and like funding from different administrations. Like if Donald Trump becomes president, he's not going to be able to cut the funding to SpaceX or something like that.
He might be well up for it. I don't know.
Might be. But, so that's what's really exciting
blast
about
all the immigrants away,
send them away to Mars.
So I think it's a very cool time, and I think SpaceX. I kind of think privately some of them might be a little disappointed that Blue Origin have beaten them to it.
Yes, certainly if you've been paying attention to the kind of Twitter stuff that's been kicking back and forth between Elon and Jeff Bezos, the Amazon dude.
Yeah.
On Twitter today, there's been a little kind of slight edge to some of it, which you could take as being Elon being a bit like, hang on guys, we did this and this first, and it's not really the first thing, and a bit banterous.
Yeah, and he definitely came up with some I agree with what he's saying totally. He's not making any fatuous points, but sort of having to point out that these aren't the same thing, because he's right, they're not.
Yeah.
But also the very fact that he had to do that, I think internally suggests that they're kind of like, or at least him personally and perhaps some other people are they're probably very happy that they're. Actually, maybe this is the wrong thing to say, because I know for a fact that all those guys, all he is about is basically just trying to push everything in an awesome direction.
Yeah.
And
the whole company's been founded.
So I think privately he'd actually be really happy, but slightly annoyed that they couldn't quite do it before them.
Yeah.
In a sort of friendly, competitive sense, and I think that's
sure.
a natural thing. But when they do it, it's still going to be,
it's going to be a massive deal. And the point being that like SpaceX have a load of customers. Yeah. Paying them to launch stuff into orbit, and that if they do actually manage to land with this first stage next time, it's plausible that in a year or two you could be seeing reused Falcon 9 boosters launching payloads into orbit,
and they
within a year or two. And in fact, Orbcomm, who are the guys, the company paying the customers for the next SpaceX launch, have already requested a old used Falcon 9
I heard
booster.
That. For a knockdown price.
They're like, oh, we'll take it. We'll take that hit and be the first company.
Yeah.
Just give us a cheap price and we'll do it. So if they land this one, the next one, it's possible that Orbcomm will pay.
That's so cool.
Will buy the next launch off of it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Can't wait for that.
Yeah. Very exciting times. So I think the last thing to finish on is space tourism.
Yeah.
A bet.
Yeah. Okay.
Which company's going to take you into space? If you're going to pay for it, if you're going to have the money to do it, generally affordable, or you're still alive when it happens.
Do you mean which one would I prefer, or which do you think
is most likely?
It's really hard to gauge because Blue Origin are so secretive.
It is, yeah.
But judging on what I've seen today, compared to like possibly when I first heard them about a year ago, maybe.
Yeah,
I would say possibly Blue Origin. I mean, they're smashing it.
Yeah, and Virgin's undergone a lot of problems. Yeah. I mean, the Virgin thing was due a long time ago to already be flying people up. They had that.
Yeah, and the fact that it's not, it just seems like these VTOL, these vertical takeoff and landing vehicles, are probably just a better way of doing it.
Yeah, I was thinking that, and whether air breathing planes are even necessary to do these types of things.
Yeah.
You end up so much further away, and well, no, you don't. You can glide back, can't you, for a lot of it? But it just seems
probably
like
fuel.
It's a bit like. Possibly a bit like the space shuttle versus the standard get into orbit systems, as in the space shuttle can take a lot more stuff. You can kind of rack up a load more people in it. It's cooler. It looks badass.
It looks awesome. Yeah.
But actually, when it comes down to it, it's not a great design. And actually, what's safer and gets more people into orbit safely happens to be old-fashioned rockets with a load of new bits bolted on, and old-fashioned capsules that are much better at they're smaller heat shields and stuff. They're just less that can go wrong basically. So maybe it's comparable to that, and actually most of what we'll do in the future in order to get into space will be with somewhat conventional rockets rather than air breathing or other sort of flight systems. I can't believe that will be the case forever, but
possibly
certainly I feel like it will be for the start.
Especially if we can perfect these vertical landing boosters to the point where they are functioning sort of like aircraft. That you can just refuel them, reservice them, and launch them again.
Yeah.
If you can get to that point, then you can be just having a fleet of these things constantly flying.
What happens if you get these rockets right and you sort of turn them into Thunderbird 1? So
that would be awesome.
So you can refuel them and they can land anywhere on these specific places.
Yeah.
You can slow them down in air, going down by turning them backwards and stuff.
Yeah.
So they just become like
there would be Thunderbird 1.
But what I don't know what role they fulfill. They're not going to be taking people around. Super fast transatlantic just pop over in 10 minutes to New York sort of thing from London.
Elon will have one under a swimming pool in his mansion. It's exactly like Thunderbird 1. With a ludicrous thing to get into it.
Where you slide down about 10 different layers.
Spinning
backwards,
around,
forwards, upside down.
Yeah. Need that to happen.
Yeah. Awesome.
But yeah, on that note, I guess we'll call it an evening.
Yeah, I think we will. We're going to be doing some. Well, this is the first of our React videos, but we're going to be doing a lot of these.
Many.
Hopefully, if there's lots of awesome stuff that comes out.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing a podcast and uploading lots of YouTube videos, so keep your eye on it.
Yeah.
Because if you're into this sort of stuff, we're not just going to be talking about space though.
No, not just space, not just launches, all kinds of stuff, like any cool news that comes out that we think's interesting and that just generally is interesting, we'll talk about.
Yeah,
Podcast's going to have all kinds of stuff in it. So,
but particularly, I mean, we should probably outline roughly what that is.
Yeah, true.
It will say on the description, but it's the things like technology, the future, science. We're basically, just into all this cool, awesome stuff that's around.
Future of civilization.
Yeah.
Are we the only civilization in the universe?
Yeah.
Technology, cool stuff that's happened on the Earth.
Yeah, everything, from
loads of stuff.
VR to space flight.
To sea monsters.
Nerd stuff, basically. That's it. Just nerd stuff.
Yeah. Cool. So subscribe.